Breaking news, the president has just sent a letter letting the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, know that he accepts her original invitation to talk with a joint Congress State of the Union address on January 29th. And we've been sharing with you parts of that letter. I want to read the final paragraph because it kind of sums it up. I look forward to seeing you on the evening of January 29th in the chamber of the House of Representatives. It would be very sad for our country if the State of the Union were not delivered on time. And then now I'm going to go to the next bit of information here from our producer, Chad Pergram, keeping us informed of what the next steps are. So it's still going to be Speaker Pelosi's call, and here's why. The House and Senate still must approve a concurrent resolution approving the use of the chamber for the State of the Union and authorizing the president to speak before a joint session of Congress. But the president now skipping over the second letter. Telling him that perhaps it weren't going to happen, but not completely canceling it, but accepting that January 3rd letter, which he then points out also in his, that, it was long after the government had shut down. So for her to then dip in and say she was worried about security, and I'll add again, she did not check with the Secret Service or DHS on that. Joe, I see you nodding.
You ought to. I mean, one of the things that would be very important is if you're going to make statements, which I've sat in this spot before. I've made some statements, and I've got tweets, and I get emails that say, "Are your facts correct?" These facts are.
No, that never happens.
I know it never happens. It probably has never happened to you,
no.
But it actually did happen to me one of the first times I was here, and it really put me on alert to say, make sure you understand what you're talking about before you talk about it. Make sure you have your facts correct if you're going to make a statement that is verifiable. And I think it lends credibility to the position that you've taken. And so in Speaker Pelosi's case, you have that about the security, which really isn't an issue.
I don't know how she thought she was going to go away with that.
So can I just talk about...
They're both playing a game.
Can I talk about the deal-making that's going on right now? The deal-making is not really about whether or not we're going to see a State of the Union or Nancy Pelosi can use military transport or anything. The deal-making is about the government shutdown right now. Right. And so now my question is, where are these two in their relationship and their ability to do a deal? John Roberts is about to join us now from the North Lawn. And, John, it just got interesting yet again. But at the center of this is opening the government. What difference is this going to make in the overall picture?
I don't think that this will make any difference in the overall picture of opening the government. I mean, that all depends what happens in the Senate later on today. But now the president, and we knew that the president was likely going to make this move because we were told yesterday that the president wanted to fulfill his constitutional obligation to deliver the State of the Union address as scheduled next Tuesday. So now he has codified that with a letter back to Nancy Pelosi saying that he plans to be there next Tuesday night. Security was the reason why Nancy Pelosi had originally asked the president to postpone or deliver the State of the Union in writing. The president says in the letter, quote, "I was contacted by the Department of Homeland Security and the United States Secret Service to explain that there would be absolutely no problem regarding security with respect to the event. They have since confirmed this publicly." We had that reporting last week. Accordingly, he continues to write, "There are no security concerns regarding the State of the Union address. Therefore, I will be honoring your invitation." They missed an R there. "And fulfilling my constitutional duty to deliver important information to the people in Congress of the United States of America regarding the state of our union. I look forward to seeing you on the evening of January 29th in the chamber of the House. It would be so very sad for our country if the State of the Union were not delivered on time, on schedule, and very importantly, on location." So what this does now, Harris, is this firmly whacks the ball back into Nancy Pelosi's court. So she's got a couple of choices here. She can, let the State of the Union go ahead, or she can disinvite the president. I mean, if she really doesn't want him up there on Tuesday with a forum to be able to talk about all the things he wants to talk about, then she's going to have to disinvite him. That would be precedent setting, and I'm not sure how that would go over with the nation.
Can I ask you, because, I mean, if you move on to the idea of getting this whole thing resolved, which is really the backdrop to the whole State of the Union thing. There's all this talk about, there's got to be a big idea out there for resolving this, some big deal that everybody could come together on. I believe it was Axios had this story about Republicans floating an idea of green cards for those 700,000 DACA recipients, that maybe that's something, a big deal that would make this all kind of come to a conclusion. What are you hearing on that front? Is any of that real?
Well, in terms of big deals, the State of the Union is not it. It's not part of the big deals. So let's put that to the side. But this idea of green cards or some sort of path to status or citizenship for DACA recipients, that's something that's a non-starter among most of the president's base and among a large swath of Republicans in Congress. Now, you bring these bills to the floor and you open them up to the amendment process. Anything can happen. So who knows what would ultimately get passed by the Senate. And then the House could either take up the Senate bill or they could even start action on their own if they wanted to. But I think what's interesting here, Melissa and Harris, is this idea that we're beginning to see some movement in Congress at the very least. But the president, again, throwing down the gauntlet to Nancy Pelosi to say, if you don't want me there on Tuesday night, you've got to disinvite me. We'll see what happens.
Ooh, John Roberts there at the White House. Thank you so much.
Thank you.